apartment or a 3-room apartment. A 2-room apartment is one room that's fairly good size and one other room, because they don't count the kitchen or the bathroom. And sometimes the bathroom is divided by the commode and then the sink and the bathtub, you know, or the shower. Yes, sir.
Did they give you like how many square centimeters or?
No. They kind of stayed away from the how big the apartments are, but I just think it's something that they felt like we wouldn't understand. So yeah.
It sounds like Los Angeles.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
Does it? That very well could be. Very well could be. Very expensive, very small. New York. But this is all over. I mean, this is all over in a huge city. So if you have a 3-bedroom apartment, you have maybe one larger room that they use for living, they use it for eating, they use it for a bedroom if they needed it at night, and then one other room where someone can sleep or whatever they use it for. And we had a guide in St. Petersburg who was extremely nice about sharing with us. And she said that when the Soviet Union fell, the people who owned or who were living in the apartments, those apartments were given to them. At that point, they could rent them, they could sell them, or they could keep them and live in them. They had their choice. And so they are rented, they are sold, and they're building new ones as we speak. I mean, they try to build new ones. But she said that when she and her husband married, and she was probably in her 40s, lovely woman, well-dressed, very well-educated. She said that her parents had an apartment, a 3-room apartment, and when she and her husband had a child, her parents moved out into a small apartment and left them the 3-room apartment. Oh, well, to us, you see, I just don't think that we understand how they think about apartments. And then recently, her son, who is in college, fell in love with another college girl. They don't have the money to rent their own apartment, so she's moved in with them. And she said just happily, I mean, Pat was there, she heard her. She said, it's working out just fine. We have plenty of room. And she was absolutely serious about that. We have plenty of room. So, you know, we have different ideas about apartment buildings. Did I answer your question about the apartments? Yeah. There are very few, if any, houses around Moscow. But I wanted to go back. As we were going along the boulevard on this bus, and I was looking at all these tall buildings, if you could have seen Moscow's streets, they were like 8 and 9 lanes wide with a median, a big wide median down the front. And then on each side, there was a trolley car, or what I call a streetcar, with the rails on either side and the lines to run the trolley car, and people can jump on, and I mean they stop, but they get on and get off. Plus on the streets there were buses, there were cars, there were trucks, and I saw a lot of BMWs. I mean, you talk about shopping at GUM. I saw a great many, I was watching, and there were a lot of BMWs and Mercedes on the highways, and the traffic was horrendous. But the boulevard, I can see why Dimitri felt like the transportation was good there. And then, to answer your question, Jean, as we went along the river, we saw little clusters of houses, usually older houses, very few new and modern ones, but we did see some modern ones. But little clusters of older houses along the river where groups of people live. And we were invited into one of them, which was one of the most memorable moments that we had. There, we walked up, and The fence was decorated by this man with his woodwork. I mean, it was beautiful lattice work. And we walked in and he had pretty spirals on the porch and they had painted it pretty colors. And I've got, instead of the whole album, I brought, I divided the pictures up and I put them in envelopes marked Subway or marked Country House or apartments or whatever, so that they can kind of be divided. So if you'll leave those photographs in the same envelope, that would be nice. But when we were invited in, you could see that they had they'd lived there for 54 years, by the way. Lovely couple. And he had been either a chauffeur or a bus driver. I could not figure out which was which. But you could see that the front room and the kitchen had been built first. You want me to quit? Okay. All right.
Because they may have questions, but finish up this particular
Okay.
line that you.
All right. Okay. Well, they lived there for 54 years. They started with one room and a kitchen with a stove that had that you could cook on or would heat the home, and a little ledge up at the top where they used to put the babies when it was cold. And then they had built on a utility room and a bedroom and then a sunroom with lots of beds in it, just as they needed it. And they had a bathhouse and they had a storage house for their wood, and it was, I mean, huge. They store a lot of wood. And then he had a garage that he was very proud of, and he had a car in it. He said he got his car after he retired. Very proud of his car. And she was very proud of her stove. She walked over, and it's a little stove that we would have had in the 50s, just a little square stove with 4 burners at the top. But she went over and she turned on the gas just to show us that it was real gas. Well, I won't tell you about the old house, but do you want me to tell them about the tattoo?
The what, tattoo?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I just don't want to bore you.
No, we're not bored.
Well, I just,
That's fine.
If we
okay.
can't go there, the next phase, they'll hear you tell them that.
Well, I did have the opportunity to go into an old 19th century home, and it was fascinating, but I'll skip all of that. But I did want to tell you about the German soldiers' names. On our way to the Catherine Summer Palace, they started saying that in this area, you'll notice there are quite a few German families that have German names, which was kind of a surprise to me. And they said that during the war, there was a prisoner of war camp not far away. And the women were hungry for men. There were no men. And so they would sneak food and take it over to the prisoners of war and give them food whenever they could spare it. And this was out in the country. And after the war, don't ask me the logistics, a lot of these German soldiers married these women and started families, and so there's a whole community of German families or families with German names around there. To me, that was interesting. I've never dreamed. We saw graveyards that went on forever. We never saw the ends of the graveyards. The amount of people that they've lost in the wars are tremendous. Every single small town we went into, there was a monument for the Russian soldiers. Every single small community we went to. I was going to tell about grocery stores.
Yeah.
You want to hear about grocery stores? This little house that we went into, it was, there were streets. I mean, it wasn't like it was just set out somewhere. They're on a street, like in a residential area, only just an old one. And 1 block up the street, there was a little grocery store. And if any of you in here are over 60, I think you've all been in one of those grocery stores. It was a little grocery store. It had everything from canned goods to macaroni to vodka. And I have some pictures over here of those grocery stores. But then around the corner from this little grocery store, wasn't very big, but they had a lot packed in there. Walked around the corner, there was a bus stop, and then around the corner from that was a dry goods store. And it had men's shirts, fabric, rugs, kitchen utensils, all the things that would be in a dry goods store. So it was like their little shopping center, sort of right in there. And then along the street, because of course we were walking, in front of one man's house, he had a little kiosk out in the front, and it was all dried smoked fish. We wouldn't have even walked near it. It was, Pat's face says it all. But apparently he sells it out there, certainly not to tourists. And then we walked a little way longer, and there was a lady who had her kiosk out in the front, but it was all baked goods, and we had pierogies, and it was really good. And I did want to tell you about the tattoo. I wanted to start by saying, I have a couple of people in here who know what this means. Anybody in here know what this means? Oh, no. Pat, interested? It seems, I'll just tell you this real quick, but all those domes that they have, all those domes that they have that look like onions, those are supposed to look like flames, but anyway, when, not Lenin, but Stalin came to power, he wanted to have buildings that looked different from that, because those were for the, those were for the churches and the monasteries. And so he has built 7 big buildings with spires at the top, and they call those Stalin's 7, is it his 7 sisters? Yes, in Moscow. But years before that, they had a building that was built with the spires long before. And the wind blew the spire over. And the Tsar said, well, I need somebody to fix it. Nobody wanted to climb up there that high and fix it. So one day he said, I will give anybody who will fix it, I'll give them anything they want. So this young man came along and he said, I'll go up and fix it, and he did. When he came down, he said, I want a paper that will allow me to have vodka anywhere in Russia for free. So he wrote out the paper, gave it to him, and the man walked away. Well, he kept losing the paper. Who knows why with all that vodka, but anyway, he kept losing the paper. And so finally, the Tsar got sick of it, and he had his free pass tattooed on the side of his neck. Wow. And so now in Russia, when you want someone to come and have a drink with you, you rub the side of your neck, and that means, would you like to come and have a drink with me? There are 1,000 things we could have talked about tonight, but I hope we've given you a glimpse of a lovely trip, and the people there were nothing but wonderful to us. Nothing but wonderful. So if you have any questions.
Carol, in your trips out away from the ship, did you eat on the economy? Are there restaurants like tavernas or things like that?
I'll let Pat answer that. I don't want to answer that.
Lots of restaurants. We did not do very much eating off of the ship because all our meals were included. We did have a meal in Red Square where we tried the borscht. And then when we were in St. Petersburg, we had some free time, and we went into a restaurant that was near the Philharmonic Orchestra. And it was really kind of, I guess for Russia, it was a fairly nice high-end restaurant. Not expensive at all compared to standards here, and the food was outstanding. But they had all kinds of beer joints. They had Pizza Huts, they had McDonald's, you know. They had all kinds of restaurants, no shortage of them at all. So, and the food that we did have was really good. The food on the ship, their soups were outstanding. They're known for their soups.
And the apricots.
And the what?
The apricots.
Oh, the apricots.
They grow apricots in the south.
It was Uniworld. Uniworld, yeah. Yeah, absolutely outstanding. They did a
If you were
Russian,
going back there in September, don't you think that would be awfully cold?
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think September you'd be okay. So, it was beautiful when we were there, really
And you
beautiful.
was in there in what month?
May,
Wow.
yeah. And it, to me, you know,
I was
good
in Scotland
for,
in July and I was cold.
oh, I bet you were. I've been in Scotland in September and
Yeah.
August and frozen. But I like when I'm touring, maybe in the high 60s, because you're out walking and doing things. And you know, when it starts getting much warmer than that, you get worn out and tired. Because I don't know about y'all, but I'm not a big outdoorsy person when I'm here. And I go on these trips and every day you're just go, go. This one was non-stop. You know, you go on a cruise, you sometimes get at sea days. There was no at sea day. Every day you were up and running. And of course, we were boozing up at night, you know, so you're half hungover the next morning on top of everything else. And then trying to go out and
We
sightsee.
didn't have a choice.
We had a wonderful Russian night where they served a wonderful Russian meal. They had the Russian colors down the tables and played the music and served the vodka. And we met some charming people, two lovely gentlemen who brought a tray of the vodka. I don't think you were supposed to do that. You were supposed to pick up a glass as you came into the dining room. Well, he picked up the tray and brought it to the table. So we had an especially nice Russian night that night. And I recently learned another, this is comfort drink, but they have a Russian toast that they say. And I'll leave you with this. It says, "May your hearts be light and your purse be heavy."
Any other questions? Any other questions?
I can't tell you. Carol and Pat, I can't tell you how much we have appreciated your talk. You have taken us into Russia, which we had no idea what this country was like, how normal sounding the people are with their families. And I wanted to ask you, did you ever hear anything political about Putin?
The people think quite highly of Putin.
Mhm.
He's really apparently been very good for the Russian people. I don't think we had anything negative about him at all. Didn't see him while we were there, but we did see Stalin. We have a photograph to prove it. In Red Square, you've got all these people dressed up, and boy, does he ever look like Stalin, I'm telling you.
And he signed
So-
our picture, Joseph Stalin, 1945.
Wow.
And if you don't believe us, that's too bad.
Well, I think anytime that these two are going to take a trip, and I know they have a long-range trip coming up. Now, when is that?
Next August, we're going to fly to Greece and spend 6 days in Greece, and then we're going to take a cruise that follows the old trade route from Athens to Mumbai, which in India, the former Bombay. It goes through Israel, all the way through the Suez Canal, across the Red Sea.
So
It'll be
they-
a little dangerous, but it should be exciting.
We don't know what it's going to be like by then.
But we may
Who knows?
not even be able to go by then.
But anyhow, you have really given us a trip into Russia, which we had no idea about. And I'm sure when we say these ladies are coming back to give us another program, we will even have more people here because you will spread the word of how good they do. So please give them a good, warm thank you. And now let's go have our treats. And I'm sure that these ladies will still be around to ask questions, and maybe they will set up back here by their pictures so you can come up and ask questions there. Thank you all.